I am privileged to be here. Thank you, Dean Moe, Dean Anderson, for this honor. And again, congratulations to the class of 2025. As I started to say, if I'm honest, USC wasn't really something that I saw for myself when I was growing up. I wasn't alone in that opinion. Believe it or not, when I was in 3rd grade, one of the nuns at my school, Sister Ann, sat down with my mother and told her, Mrs. Lynch, not every young boy is meant to go to college. Seriously. So I think my mother took that personally because after my 5 older sisters all went to college, so did she. She was already in her mid-50s. She worked all day and then went to school at night. And after many years, when I finally asked her why she did all of that, she said, to set an example for you. So, graduates, your parents, your grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and everybody who's ever set an example for you, they've given you more than you know, and they're prouder than you can imagine. So let's please give them a big round of applause. I'm so grateful to be back here at USC and to receive a Distinguished Alumni Medallion. If Sister Ann could see me now. I have to admit, though, she wasn't completely off base. After all, I ended up here the same way many of you did, barely. When I was in high school, I was much more interested in playing music than going to college. One night, my band played a show. Somebody stole our equipment, the promoter stiffed us, and suddenly I realized this is not how I want to make a living. So I enrolled at USC. But between playing sports here, working to pay tuition, and recording music on the side, I often missed classes. Sorry about that. True. Then in my senior year, I met my wife, who's here, another Trojan, Kathleen. And then I was never in class. Don't get me wrong, I worked hard, I got good grades, even got straight A's by my senior year, but my classmates never saw me. So I really didn't object when they voted me most likely to graduate knowing the least. Somewhere I know Sister Ann rubbed her rosary and nodded. But all these years later, I've worked in aerospace, manufacturing, banking, tech, streaming, and now publishing. So you might wonder why I'm speaking here instead of at the business school. Well, it's because the business school got Snoop Dogg. Hard to compete with Snoop. Even though I did later go to business school, I could not have navigated the business world the way I did without the liberal arts education I earned right here. USC is where I discovered what I liked and what I didn't. I did not, for example, like writing. That's ironic for the CEO of a publishing company, I know. Eventually I came around. Physics, though, that hooked me right away. Where are my fellow physics graduates here? Woo! All right. I loved physics. It made sense to me. It made me feel like a good student. In fact, I became comfortable enough with my physics professors that once I had to tell one of them that I had to skip an exam to travel with the team. He got so excited. He shouted, "You're a football player?" And he was crestfallen when I said, "No, crew." I don't think that counted as a sport in his mind. But physics instilled something in me that was more valuable than equations and theories. It gave me confidence. It became second nature to think, I don't know how to solve this problem, but I do know that I will figure out how to solve it. And that, Trojans, is what your USC education has given you. More than a degree, more than a line on a resume, it's equipped you with a way of thinking. You now know how to distinguish between fact and fiction, how to analyze and approach problems, how to craft arguments, and how to lead. And whether you know it or not, whether you study law or literature, physics, philosophy, political science, or the lab-based kind of science, and whether it took you, like me, an extra year to finish quantum mechanics, that's a true story, you now have the confidence to navigate the unknowns of life. And that makes you ready for my first piece of advice. When a window opens, dive through it. Metaphorically, of course, but let me explain. In a world changing as fast as ours, when it can feel like everything we grew up with and counting on is suddenly up for grabs. And when you will see entire industries disappear and new ones emerge, there is no more valuable skill than knowledge, especially the knowledge that you can solve any problem. All these years later, it remains the compass that has guided me throughout my different jobs and different careers. My wife describes my peculiar path by telling people, when a window opens, Roger always goes through. Ironically, though, my first job had no windows. I worked in R&D for the Hughes Aircraft Company, helping design missile guidance systems in a nondescript building over by LAX. The lab I worked in was underground, and you could only access it through 2 electronically locked doors, and this was all to prevent the Russians from spying. And I was the only person in there, all day, every day. I worked remotely before it was cool, and I hated it. Then a window opened, figuratively, because my lab still didn't have windows. My father-in-law needed somebody to run a manufacturing plant, so I took a chance, swung a leg through that window, and that job made business school a possibility. I climbed through that window too. That led me to Morgan Stanley, first in New York, then in Silicon Valley, then London, which in turn opened another window. I was offered the chance to launch a broadband company in Amsterdam. At the time, my wife and I had 3 young kids. I was only 4 years out of business school, and Morgan Stanley offered me an obscene amount of money to shut that window and stay with them in a safe job, with a fat salary and a secure future. But I dove through that window anyway for a tiny fraction of the money. People thought I was crazy, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The point is, these decisions are never easy. When I was where you are, I had no idea what my career was going to be. But whenever a window of opportunity opened, I'd ask myself one question above all: which side of the window is more intellectually stimulating? Which offers the more interesting challenges to solve? As you leave here today, new windows will open for you. Some will open when you least expect it. Some might not even look like opportunities at first. There's no guarantee that what's on the other side will be better. And you may have to give up something comfortable for something uncertain. And trust me, they never stay open for long. But if what's on the other side of that window has the potential to excite you every day, then I hope you'll dive right through it too. I have again and again, from broadband in Amsterdam to a too-early streaming TV company in London, from London back to the US to launch Sling TV, the first live streaming service, from Sling to Pandora, which at the time was the largest streaming music service, and navigating Pandora through a successful sale to SiriusXM opened the biggest window yet, and the one with the greatest uncertainty on the other side. The startups I launched and ran disrupted the way we access the internet, the way we watch television, the way we listen to music. Now I was offered a chance to help a stalwart survive disruption to the way we read. Condé Nast, of course, is home to iconic brands like Vogue, The New Yorker, Vanity Fair, GQ, Wired, and many more. When I took the helm, we faced the same challenges as the rest of the industry. What's more, rather than working as one company, our international divisions were all in competition with each other, kneecapping one another to land the same cover stars. But while our global divisions were fighting to fence off their audiences from each other, the data showed something interesting. Their audiences were already global. Italians were reading American Vogue, Americans were reading British GQ, and everywhere, fewer people were doing it the old-fashioned way by getting ink on their fingers. So we reimagined the company, merging our US and international businesses, creating global editorial teams, and doing it all while we were working remotely. When the pandemic eased, I finally got to visit our offices around the world, and I saw a deer in the headlights everywhere. I told everyone, if it feels chaotic, if it feels like you have no idea what's going on right now, that's exactly how it should feel right now. Which brings me to my other piece of advice today. When everything is changing around you, the one certain mistake you can make is to not change. It's comfortable to keep doing things the way they've always been done until it's not. Cable TV was one of the best business models ever invented until it wasn't anymore. CDs were the best way for music labels to sell music until they weren't anymore. And print magazines were very profitable until they weren't anymore. Disruption always comes. Tastes and technology twist and turn. But real transformation, good, necessary change, is messy. And it can feel uncomfortable. It's a natural defense mechanism we all have to shield us from risk and the unfamiliar. But over my career, I've learned that transformation is never as hard as we fear at first. Everybody makes mistakes, even Trojans. But we learn quickly, we adjust on the fly. And most importantly, we adapt in ways that we can't predict. Today, for example, our 116-year-old media company is now the largest publisher on YouTube and TikTok. Half a billion people engage with our content every month, and our Met Gala event last week generated over 2 billion video views around the world. All that, in turn, makes our print magazines even better. So fellow Trojans, when I sat where you sit, I never imagined my career would take me from missile systems to manufacturing and banking to broadband and music to magazines. But each move, each dive through a window unlocked a fascinating new area of expertise. A medley of majors is a never-ending education. I never got stuck thinking I'm a physicist or I'm a banker or I'm lead guitar in a rock and roll band, which is too bad because that would have been awesome. I am, however, a Trojan. And what I've learned is that across different jobs, careers, even industries, the challenges you'll face are remarkably similar. In an age where the specific skills that seem so important today will be obsolete in 10 years, the core competencies that really matter, confidence that you can build teams, lead people, solve any problem, these transcend any specific sector. And your ability to learn, to adapt, to rise to a challenge, and to do all of it with a dash of Southern California cool, that will never go out of style. Some of you have no idea what you're going to do after you walk across the stage today. That's fine. Take your time. Some of you know exactly where you're heading, and that's great. But none of you know what you're going to do second or third, and that's awesome. What matters isn't having everything mapped out. What matters is knowing that what you've learned here and who you've met here will help you tackle anything that lies ahead. Class of 2025, your window is opening right now. Make the most of it. Thank you, congratulations, and fight on.